Starting off at number 10 now, we have the Sentinelese. These are the indigenous people of North Sentinel Island, located in the Bay of Bengal. They have resisted contact with the outside world for as long as the outside world has even known about them. They are a hunter-gatherer population that have shown no signs of developing agriculture or even producing fire. In 1996, the Indian government ended all contact attempts following a series of hostile encounters resulting in several deaths. In 2006 alone, 2 fishermen were killed by tribal archers there when their boats drifted too close to the island. The tribe's population is unknown. Next up at number 9 now, we have Survival International. That's not the name of the tribe, obviously. That's the name of the group that took these incredible pictures of an uncontacted tribe in the Brazilian Amazon. The helicopter was flying over a clearing near the Envira River when they saw this: a man and some children staring up at them in wonder. He's armed with a bow and arrow and covered in red paint made from the seeds of the anato shrub. When the pictures were posted online on the group's website, they were being viewed thousands of times per minute, captivating people all over the world. Next up at number 8 now, we have the Man of the Hole. This is one man who lives alone in the Amazon rainforest and is believed to be the last surviving member of his tribe. Some people refer to him as the last tribesman or the loneliest man on earth, but he is known as the Man of the Hole because he makes holes. Wherever his abandoned homes are found, there is always a hole inside them, over 6 feet deep. It's thought he uses these holes to trap animals or for him to hide in. His existence wasn't even known until 1996. In 2007, the Brazilian government made an off-limits area around him. That area currently sits at over 42 square miles. In 2009, the Man of the Hole was attacked by gunmen, but is believed to have survived. Not much more is known about him. Alright, at number 7 now, we have the New Guinea tribes. Now these are a large number of different tribes on this Indonesian island that we know almost nothing about. One study found there are an estimated 44 uncontacted tribal groups there. Large parts of the area are unexplored by scientists and anthropologists because of all the difficult terrain. It seems to be the case there that local authorities are aware of where the tribes are, but not very much more than that. Very little is known about their language, population, and whether contact is even the right thing to push for. Moving on to number 6 now, we have the Awa. Also known as the Gawaya, this indigenous group live in Brazil's eastern Amazon rainforest. Their population is thought to be around 350, spread out among a number of smaller subgroups. Now about 100 of those people have had no contact with the outside world. They are a nomadic group, which means they wander from place to place, a trait they appear to have developed to stay one step ahead of colonial Europeans. They have had serious conflicts with loggers, leading to massacres, with some accusing the Brazilian government of turning a blind eye. This led to one human rights organization to label them as Earth's most threatened tribe. Next up at number 5 now, we have the Javari Valley people. Now this isn't their name, we don't actually know their name, but Javari Valley in Brazil is where an uncontacted tribe had a brutal run-in with illegal gold miners. In September 2017, an estimated 10 members of the tribe were killed while gathering eggs along the valley's river. We only know this happened because the miners then went to a bar to brag about the killings, showing off a hand-carved paddle as proof of their deed. The event caused outrage across the world, but for local activist groups trying to protect these local tribes, this sadly comes as no surprise. Alright, at number 4 now, we have the Ao Rio. There are a number of different clans that make up the Ao Rio group, although they all originate from the Gran Chaco area that spans both Bolivia and Paraguay. Some of these clans have assimilated into the modern world around them, with notable problems for them, I might add, but some of them remain in voluntary isolation. It's thought there are about 100 uncontacted Ao Rio members split into about 6 or 7 groups. They're actually the only uncontacted South American tribe not living in the Amazon. Next up at number 3 now, we have the Toromona. These are an uncontacted tribe living in northwest Bolivia. They've been known about for quite some time, but it wasn't until 2006 that the Bolivian government created an established zone of protection for them. There has not been a single non-native person to contact this tribe. This is quite surprising because many parts of Bolivia were settled by the Spanish during their colonization of the area. However, they found it difficult to settle in this particular area of the Amazon, and so the Toromona were free to develop uncontacted. At the number 2 spot now, we have the Yuqui. This group of indigenous people from eastern Bolivia have been known about since the colonial era, but in all that time, contact has been hard to come by. For hundreds of years, people thought the Yuqui were actually part of another, larger group known as the Siriono. So, in 1960, an attempt to contact them was made by a Siriono speaker. When it failed, anthropologists anthropologists realized they were much more of a distinct group. As of today, it's thought that the Yukwi tribe consists of 49 families, 35 of which are contacted and 14 are not. And finally, at number 1 now, we have the Mascopero. This group is one of Peru's 15 uncontacted tribes, but things may not stay the same forever. In November 2017, the Peruvian government announced plans to initiate contact with this tribe. The main reason for this is because the Mascopero have been raiding other contacted villages, sometimes killing residents and pillaging their supplies. There is also the worry that tourists and companies may start making contact with them soon anyway. All of this means the government has decided to step in first and make official contact. At the time of recording this video, it's yet to be seen if the contact will be successful.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Vikings pillaged. If you know anything about the Vikings, then it's probably that they like to wear those pointy hats. I mean, I think that was the first thing that I ever learned about Vikings, and apparently it's not even true. Yeah, that was all a lie. They just wore normal hats. It's crazy how the world lies to you. But if that was the first thing that you learned about them, then the second thing would definitely be that they love to travel around and destroy everything. They would sail around on their big boats and be beating on a drum so that everyone could get into a solid rhythm. Then they would come up on your shore and just start hacking people to bits. The Vikings would come through and burn everything to the ground, hack your armies to pieces, steal all your goods, and then take off back into the ocean. If you were on the Viking end of this whole thing, it would seem like a pretty good deal. You just gotta hang around on a boat all day and then show up to a place you don't know, slaughter like a badass, get paid for it, and then take off back into the water. Minus the killing part, that's okay. And now, moving on to Olivia.
In our number 9 spot today, we have finger cutting. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. The Dani tribe of Indonesia has a tradition that they have actually continued throughout the years, and although the Indonesian government has actually banned it, it is still believed to be practiced today. After a loved one passes away, everyone feels emotional pain, but women in this tribe will then turn their emotional pain into physical. It is a tradition for women to tie a string very tightly around their finger for 30 minutes in order to numb it, and then they will participate in the ritual of cutting off a segment of their finger. They will then burn or cauterize their new fingertip in order to stop the bleeding. This gruesome practice is done because this tribe believes that it helps keep the spirits of the deceased at peace, and for the restless spirits, it keeps them away. This practice is also said to be helpful in allowing physical pain to help the process of the emotional pain.
Coming in at number 8, we have They Fought Naked. I guess back in the day, ancient tribes didn't care if they were exposed while fighting. I personally would be scared, that things would get lopped off, but that's just me. This was something that was practiced by both the Vikings and the Gauls. So the Vikings, they would go around pillaging and also fight naked, and then the Gauls, they were the people to sack Rome for an 800-year period. So these guys were ruthless killing machines. And also pretty brave if they had all that on display.
In our number 7 spot today, we have fire walking. Have you ever run a bath that's too hot and then when you go to try and step in it, your feet are way too cold and it absolutely burns? This tradition is kind of like that, except way worse and a lot more painful. This is one tradition that has been seen in many tribes throughout history and is sometimes even still practiced today. Fire walking is basically exactly what it sounds like. Whoever is participating in the ritual will walk over either a bed of embers or stones that have been set on fire, which obviously makes them extremely hot. Since this is a practice throughout a few different tribes and cultures, there isn't one concrete reason for this, but the main reasons either consist of it being a gesture of respect towards their god, but it can also be a ritual that helps ward off evil spirits, or it can be done as a way to purify their soul.
In our 6th spot, we have They Left Behind the Weak. If you were a baby that was being born back in ancient Greece, you better hope that you come out perfect. You better hope that when the doctor takes a look at you right after you come out, screaming and crying, you better hope that you got all your fingers and toes, because they wouldn't think twice about keeping you around. If anything was off, then they would just leave you out in a forest. Some animal might turn you into a snack. But it was thought that commoners would scour the woods to find these kids to then take home. Not only that, but as soon as you were 7 years old, you would be taken into an intense environment of training. taken away from your family and forced to live with all other men who were becoming Spartans. If anyone showed any fear or weakness, the leaders training the men would get everyone else to gang up on them and encourage fighting. You had to be hardened at all times because back then the world was a much scarier place. Like imagine coming out and I'm not even gonna go there. Basically any sign of weakness and you were fought or they got rid of you.
In our number 5 spot today, we have scarification. In Papua New Guinea, there is a tribe called Kondengara, and this ritual is performed in order to strengthen the spiritual connection between the person and their environment. This ritual normally only involves men, and it starts off with adolescent men being isolated in what is called the spirit house for 2 months. After this period of isolation is over, they will then begin to prepare for their initiation ceremony. An expert will take sharp pieces of bamboo and cut their backs, which is based on the pattern of the skin of a crocodile. This is so that when the cuts heal, the scarring will be in this pattern because it is believed that crocodiles are the creators of humans. Since this is the ceremony that acts as the transition for young men to enter adulthood, this scarring is supposed to symbolize the tooth marks that were left by the spirit of the crocodile, which ate the body of the young boy and spit him out as a grown man.
And at number 4, they had warrior kings. Rolling off my last point of how much these people love to fight, they would see that knowledge of combat is one of the best traits to lead people. That's where the Hatti come in. They were one of the most dominant forces in the Bronze Age. They would cut down anyone who got in their way and they would take no crap from anyone. They had one of the largest empires of their time, and this was because of their love for violence and their respect for someone who knew how to fight. They would pick their king by someone who would be a great general, but also was successful in single combat. There would be many times when the king would fight with the army, which is pretty good. Even if you don't agree with all the bloodshed, at least those kings were willing to die for the cause. Because of this mentality towards warfare, this meant that everyone would start training on how to be the best warrior. They would start this training at an early age with aspirations to be king. So even if someone didn't get to be king, they would still be deadly with the blade. And that is how they were able to have such a strong army.
In our number 3 spot today, we have bullet ant gloves. In Brazil, there is a tribe, and they have one initiation tradition that I just truly cannot believe. Have you guys ever heard of bullet ants? If you haven't, they're obviously ants, but these ants are known for their incredibly powerful and painful venomous sting. The name bullet ant comes from the fact that these stings apparently have an equal amount of pain to that of being shot, so certainly an ant to stay away from. Anyway, this tribe has special gloves that are made with hundreds of bullet ants woven into it. The ritual consists of the person putting their hands inside of these gloves and leaving them there for 10 whole minutes. By the time their hands come out, they truly cannot move their hands, and it takes days for the pain to entirely go away. Doing this one time should be enough to show everyone how serious you are, right? Well, apparently not, because this tradition is repeated by the same person over 20 separate times over the course of months or years. I feel like I wouldn't even be able to do this once, but you definitely would not catch me doing this multiple times.
Coming in at number 2, we have the Can. Now, this wasn't all the tribes back in the day, but there were a few people that practiced
becoming dinner.
Archaeologists were able to discover this by finding caves where ancient humans were living. That's where they found remains that had bite marks through them. They believe that these were the remains of humans that were subjected to
becoming dinner.
And if food sources were scarce back then, they were eating each other.
In our number 1 spot today, we have human sacrifice. It may seem a little backwards, but human sacrifice was practiced by the Aztecs for many years as a means of survival. In Aztec mythology, Huitzilopochtli is the god of the sun, and he is constantly in a battle against darkness. If he loses, the world will of course end, and the idea behind the human sacrifice is that they will sacrifice their hearts in blood in order to feed him so that he can continue to fight the battle for light. It was also believed that if you sacrificed yourself in this way, it was not only a huge honor, but you would also have a very blessed afterlife. You would go on to fight in the army of Huitzilopochtli and help him win the battle against darkness.
Coming in at number 10, we have the Sentinelese. It's crazy to think that there are still uncontacted people living out in the world. Running into them would be like falling through a wormhole that would take you back to a time before the written language existed. The Sentinelese live on North Sentinel Island off the coast of India, and there is a good reason that they have not been contacted. They have no desire to be contacted, and the Indian government protects their rights to stay secluded. In fact, the military constantly patrols the borders of the island to make sure that nobody sneaks on there for whatever reason. Because the Sentinelese people are left in isolation, there is very little known about their language or culture, but it's thought that their population is somewhere around 500 people, and it would seem that they are quite short. Without any exposure to a large array of nutrients, similar to the diet that most of us would have, it has caused the average person to be somewhere between 5'1" and 5'3". In terms of diet, it would seem that they mostly forage for seafood off the coast of the island and occasionally hunt within the grounds of the island. It's speculated that they have found out how to use fire, but that has not been confirmed. Someone should give them a lighter and blow their mind. Coming in at number 9 with the Chimbu Skeleton Tribe. Everyone has a way to get an edge on their enemy. If you're playing video games, you might watch hours upon hours of tutorials so you can find out how to get better at the game. If you're hunting, you might use camouflage to make sure your prey can't see you. And if you're part of the Chimbu Skeleton Tribe, you'll make yourself look like the dead so your enemies feel a shot of terror go right through their heart. The Chimbu Skeleton Tribe is from Papua New Guinea, and they have one trait that sets them apart from all the other tribes in the area. They will paint their bodies to make them look like living skeletons. This tribe has been around for centuries, and it just goes to show you that zombies have always been freaky and aren't a new concept at all. Coming in at number 8, we have Sealand, England, an old World War II fort that is out in the middle of the ocean. It was built by the English so they could keep an eye on any incoming troops that were coming in to take them out. After the war was won, the world kind of forgot about this little man-built island, and it just stood out in the middle of the ocean for a really long time doing nothing. It got a second shot at life when a pirate radio crew came in and took over the whole place so they could use it as their base of operation for their little project. And this crew of bandit DJs attracted Paddy Roy Bates. He went out to get the pirates out, and once he was successful in his mission, he thought the best course of action to make sure that no one did the same thing again would be to start a small town on the fort. So that's what he did. It now stands on its own with a small community of people. They have even come up with their own national anthem. All supplies are either flown in or shipped in. I don't think this would be my ideal way to live, but it would be very calming being that far out in the ocean. But if you were to cross anyone, then you would basically have to swim back to the mainland. Coming in at number 7, we have San Marino. Now let's take a trip to one of the smallest countries in the world. San Marino has managed to keep itself standing as its own country, even though it has Italy swooping all around it. What makes this place so interesting is that it looks as if it's been lost in time. It's called the oldest republic in the world, and a lot of the original architecture still stands. If you want to go check out some castles, then this is a must-travel place for you. There are 3 ancient fortresses that still stand in the country, and they have all been preserved extremely well. And if you're someone who's into the supernatural, then you'll be happy to learn that all of these castles have a fair share of ghost stories attached to them. I mean, can you really call yourself a castle if you don't have some lady in white who's walking the halls at night crying about her lost love? You need ghosts to be a castle. Coming at number 6, we have Dominica. I know when I say that, everyone is going to think that I'm talking about the Dominican Republic, but that is not the case with this tucked away gem. This is a beautiful island in the Caribbean that is considered a wildlife sanctuary and protected by local governments. There are several different ecosystems that collide here, whether it be the tropical marine life, or the vast rainforests that stretch over a large percentage of the island, or even the last members of the known Kalingo tribe. There is also a volcano nestled close to the island for some added flair. Coming at number 5, we have the Chukchi tribe. There are several reasons you should know about this colony. They might be some of the toughest people who have ever lived. They live in some of the northern parts of Russia and have to face insanely tough conditions constantly. The weather alone would be enough to break any city dweller in a matter of hours. On top of that, they are one of the few people to go toe-to-toe with Russia and never come out the loser. Russia has tried to conquer these people for hundreds of years, and the Chukchi people have stood strong and pushed back every time. This is how they've been able to keep their culture and way of life alive. Coming in at number 4, we have the Koroway tribe. We are going to head back over to Papua New Guinea for this colony. The Koroway tribe are considered extremely dangerous. I know I started this video by saying these would be places you could travel, but please don't seek these people out. The Koroway tribe have a firm belief belief that outsiders, especially white people, are possessed by demons and they will sometimes kill people on sight. If you approach their tribe, you can expect to get an arrow in the face, and they are not easy to get to. They have a system of tree houses that they use to house all their people. This protects them from getting attacked from anyone on the ground and any land-based animals. There are rumors that this tribe also practiced cannibalism in the past and could still practice it to this day. It's believed that they would eat the flesh of a fellow tribesman who was thought to be possessed by a demon. This practice is supposed to protect them from the dark energy that is released from the body when the possessed individual dies. Coming in at number 3, we have the Mercy tribe. It's strange when you see a traditional culture clash with newer instruments. The Mercy are a warrior people. From birth, everything they do with their culture centers around combat. If you want to eat, you either need to go out and hunt or fight another tribe to steal their food. If you want to die and go to heaven, you better die in combat. If you want to become a man and respected in your tribe, then you better get fighting with the other young boys and master some of the traditional combat styles. If you even want to get married and have children, you have to be able to beat off anyone who would challenge you for that woman's hand in marriage. Now here's where things get interesting. The Mercy tribe have been exposed to ways of combat of the New World. They have been known to trade goods for machine guns and other ballistic weapons. Now the world of high caliber rounds has entered into their culture. Coming in number 2, we have Socotra Island in Yemen. There aren't any places on the planet like Socotra Island. This place is literally pulled out of time and has an ecosystem like none other on the planet. It is closely protected for good reason. There are some flora and fauna on the island that are nearly 20 million years old. To have that sort of preservation on our planet is completely unheard of. One of the rarest of these vegetative species is the dragon blood trees, which are famous around the world for their red sap. Some people believe that the sap has the ability to cure a wide variety of illnesses, while other people claim that the sap is cursed. And if rare trees that seem like they're from another planet aren't enough for you, what about 800 unique species walking around on the island? This is a place that is better seen from afar because we don't want people going there and destroying it. And coming into the number 1 spot, we have the Toromona. Deep in the jungles of Bolivia, this tribe is hidden away and protected by the Bolivian government. They were never conquered because the Spanish that came into the area to slaughter and take over the land found it too hard to navigate the rainforest-covered area in which the Toromona live, and it seems that mastery of the terrain allowed them to still be active until this day. They've been able to stay protected and find a perfectly safe way living within the rainforest. It's said that they can be a violent tribe and have no qualms about killing invaders. This could also be part of why they've been able to stay around for so long. You're good with a knife and you also know how to work the land, that's a good recipe for survival. It's thought that ancient members of this tribe were in contact with the Incas and might have known where the secret city of Paititi was, a place that is said to hold the greatest and largest Incan treasure of all time.